you can pray for us to get started.
Yes, pray.
Yeah.
Father, in the mighty name of Jesus, we thank you and we bless your name. Thank you for your love. Thank you for your care. Thank you for your protection upon our life. Thank you for this time that you've given unto us that we may learn from the people and the men that you've given unto us, Lord of glory. We open our ears, Lord, that we may hear the wisdom, the knowledge, to be able to people and even to live our lives in a more better way. Lord. We pray that, Lord, when as we listen, may our lives be imparted, the glory and honor of your name. It is in Jesus' name we pray and we give thanks.
Amen. 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 Quite some noise in the background, but it is well. It is well. It is well. So, hello everyone, and welcome to tonight's edition of Unleash Hour. It's indeed a great opportunity that God has given us to learn yet something else in this place. I want to believe that every one of us will leave tonight with something to take home and something to think through, even as we go along. So tonight it's a great privilege to host my bishop, my papa, the man under whom I have sat for the last 18 years. And like I said, this is the man who has informed a lot of what I do as a leader, because I have not only learned from what he has said, I've also learned from the way he has continued to lead in the many areas in which we have worked together. And therefore, this is not a mentor who is in the USA who I cannot reach in person. This is not someone who I would say, you know, he's mentoring me because I've read a book he has written. This is somebody who has worked with me. This is somebody who I have been in the trenches together with. And therefore, it is such a great privilege and such an honor to have him with us here today to speak to us about leadership, the basics of leadership. I believe that one of the most critical life skills that we need to have as we go through life is the ability to lead. And as we will see as the discussion continues, leadership is not restricted to a certain big organization somewhere. Leadership is required at all levels. And without preempting this discussion much further than I should, allow me to introduce Bishop Dr. Godwin Nyagamugo to say hello to us and just tell us about himself and his leadership journey so far. So welcome, Papa.
Thank you, Sami, and the entire team on this particular session. It's great to have you this evening and just to share these short moments together. It's a blessing, and indeed, I'm honored to be part of this forum and to see what you're doing. It gives me a lot of pleasure and joy to know that you are growing also in your own journey and progressing on what is your purpose as a leader and as a person. Yeah, so as Sami has mentioned, I'm a pastor and minister of the gospel by calling. I'm a doctor by profession, and I'm also a husband by choice to one beautiful lady called Joyce, and with two wonderful children. We are grateful to God. Yeah, so as I mentioned about my journey of leadership and growth is that I'll say it's been one arduous journey and task of trying to walk through life and grow from nothing really, from almost zero, no influence, not much people to nudge you along, like what is happening this evening, and then just trying to carve your way through the and then experimenting, making mistakes, and growing and getting to learn through them. It's been one really arduous task of growth, self-development, and innovation. One of the things you realize about growing in leadership is that you must really define your own growth. You must set your own targets for growth and progress, and then you begin to work towards them. And that means also you have to be on a continuing journey of self-innovation, because you have to develop yourself to a better version and try to see how you grow to a better version of yourself every day. Otherwise, you're going to become redundant. Things are changing very quickly. The challenges, some of the challenges we had just some 10 years ago are not relevant right now. There are many things which have come on board, and that means continual growth for me to be where I am today. So starting from just a simple village boy, like many of us, and working, struggling through life, through education and all that, through school, campus and the like, to work, and now to a leader somewhere. I'm not at the pinnacle yet, but a leader in my own right or capacity as a leader in the healthcare sector in the country, influencing and leading programs which are touching hundreds of thousands of people every year, and a leader also in the church, in the ministry. It's been quite a journey, but I thank God because His grace has been sufficient. I think getting to know God along my journey of growth is something that really helped me to define myself, to become who I am today. Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Great to take note of that. So one of the things that is important for us to talk about when we talk about leadership is why is leadership important, and why is it an important skill to have in life? Because we don't talk about things that have no meaning here. So why is this important?
Yeah, thank you, Sam. One of the important things is about maybe when you look at how people define leadership and all that from various circles, is that we talk about leadership as influence. And research says that even the most introverted person, the persons we consider not outgoing, very closed in and conservative, it's said that they will influence at least 8,000 people in their lifetime.
Wow.
So that tells you whether you know it or not, you're actually creating some level of influence. Yeah, whether you know it or not. Now, it's important for you to be able to define that skill so that your influence becomes positive. It becomes an influence, because when you talk influence, Hitler was an influencer, but also an influencer in the negative side.
A very effective
Mother
one
Teresa
indeed.
was an influencer. Absolutely. Very, very effective in what he wanted to do. But unfortunately, he was on a tangent of self-destruction and annihilating other people and all that. So his leadership was misplaced. His priorities were all wrong. And that means at a personal level, you need to define yourself as a leader so that you are able now to carve for yourself a niche, an area of influence that you actually will focus on, and you are able to touch people's lives in a positive way through the particular area of leadership that you have seen is actually a niche, is an area where you are most relevant in terms of your skills, in terms of your abilities, and in terms of your life purpose. That is very important, because if you don't do that, then you're going to waste yourself. Somebody said that Miles Monroe said in one of his writings that where purpose is not known, abuse is inevitable. When you don't know the reason for the existence or for the creation of something, then you're gonna live a careless life if you don't really define that. And therefore, it's important for you to define that so that you're able now to see what is it that really matters to me, and what is the area really whereby I can be able to put my foot down and be an authority in that area in one way or another. You know, how high you go or how wide you go, that will depend on a number of things maybe that we'll revisit as we continue in this discussion. Yeah.
Okay. So one of the things that is very clear is that there are always a number of forces and a number of things that happen to build and make someone into a leader. So for you, what would you say have been the people, the things, or the events that have had some of the greatest input into your journey as a leader?
So let me say first, let me begin with who. I think there are, I would say there are about 3 or 4 people who I really can pin along my journey who have been of great influence and helped me to shape my view of leadership or how to take up responsibility to step up to the challenge. One of them I would say is my father. My late father was a great influencer for me. And through a lot of sharing that I used to have with him and talk through life issues, and helped me to see life in a very different way, especially the religious element of life, faith, having been able to develop faith and a vision for God. He was a very big influencer. I think the other thing I really learned from my father is to be organized, because that man, that man was just a simple peasant farmer. But even the trouser he used to go with to the farm, who used to be ironed.
Wow.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Nice and sharp.
Wow,
And
that is amazing.
yes. And he that's one thing I also I got to learn from him. And he'll challenge you towards that and towards taking responsibility. I saw him, despite the fact that he didn't manage to get a good education or something like that, he was actually, he pioneered the primary school in our place.
Wow.
And also the church, which is where we used to attend. He was actually a pioneer of the work in that place. Wow. And so through observation, I was able to see what leadership, what happens when somebody is able to step up to a particular challenge. And that began to tell me that in spite of whatever disadvantages I might have, I can actually step up and be something or be someone that can actually make some influence somewhere. Wow. The other man I would say has influenced me greatly is my father in the faith, the Apostle Lynch, Dr. Lynch. He's been a great blessing and influenced me a lot in being able to shape my view in terms of ministry work and life. And basically, what kind of a personality do you need to be able to carry on a ministry in a way that impacts life and is able to bring change?
Yeah.
The other element is people I have not met physically, but I've read a lot of their literature. Yeah. And that is mainly Miles Monroe and John Maxwell.
Yes.
Those 2 guys, especially Maxwell, I think I've read almost every single book he's authored. I've read tens of books from this man, and they have helped to shape my thinking in a big way. And that will bring me to one of the points that if you really want to be a leader, you must be a reader too. Because there are many things that you may not be able to learn from your own experience or just from the people that you meet with. But when you read widely, it opens up your mind. It helps you to get a view, a cultural view, a world view that is actually very different because you're stepping into the shoes of other people, the experiences of other people you may never have the chance to actually interact with them. But through their writings, you're able to learn a lot that helps you to shape and refine your own journey of development. So those are like 3 people I'm really single out along my journey of leadership growth that have been very pivotal in what I've become today. When you look at the situations and circumstances, is that through these, especially 2 people, my father and Lynch, is that this has exposed me to opportunities that sometimes I could not find in any other way. One of the things that sticks to my mind to date is when I sent me to deliver some money to my sister in school in Form 4. I was just a class 5 boy. That thing stuck in my mind. It drove a message that you cannot drive in any other way, that you have to grow to be a responsible person.
Wow.
You have to step up for even others.
Yes.
Actually, I don't know whether he did that intentionally or it was just because I was a boy around home at that time, but it was not easy. When that thing happened, you can imagine, you're going there You're stepping into a vehicle, you go all the way to some place about almost 100 kilometers away, go take some money for her and all that. But that thing drove a message into me from that day that actually I'm a man who is supposed to step up for others. And that thing never left me to date. And so the thing I find about growth is that through the networks of people I've had, like my dad, also my father in the faith, and also other people I've met in terms of colleagues, is that it gives you exposure. There's a learning element, and now there's a practice. If you don't have the opportunity or the room for practice, then you cannot be able to refine the skill of who you are as a leader. So I think the other thing is now exposure to those life situations and practical things that actually help me to put into practice the things I know theoretically is actually one of the things which have helped me a lot to be able to refine and define my leadership journey. Thank you.
Awesome. So I know there is millions of things you can look at and talk about when you think about what is essential for a leader. But if you are to boil it down to a few key non-negotiable elements or essentials, what would those be for a leader?
All right. So yeah, like you said, sure, there are a lot of competencies, a lot of skills that we can talk about leadership. We can talk about them the whole week. And but I want to narrow down on three, which I consider really to be most critical for a leader. Number one is that the leader must learn the skill of the psychology of leadership and management. A leader must learn that, the psychology of leadership and management. What do I mean by that? A leader needs to be able to understand why people do what they do. Because if you don't understand that, then you'll not be able to influence. You're going to land on the wrong tangent. You'll not be able to, and remember, what makes one person do something may be completely different from what another person makes. Psychology of why people do what they want to do. That means a leader must also be having a good social quotient. Yeah. When we talk about IQ, we also need to talk about a skill. That ability to be able to relate with the people, to connect with people and all that, because who are you going to influence if you are not able to connect? Somebody saying if you have you call yourself a leader and you don't have followers, you're just taking a walk. So one must have that social quotient. So that psychology of leadership is important. Emotional quotient, EQ, very important. Because when you are beginning to relate with the people come with all kind of perspectives, attitudes, baggage, wants, prospects, all kind of things. You are all in one room doing something, but everybody is thinking about themselves. They are looking out for themselves. So that means the psychology of leadership is very important to understand why people do what they do, so that you are able to influence from a positive point and able to connect with everybody. The other important element, which I think is very critical in leadership, is persuasion. The skill for persuasion, because if leadership is influence, then you must be able to persuade people. You must be able to rally people to a call, to a particular vision, to a particular purpose, so that now you can be able to pursue that and follow that as a team, as one unit. And the other third thing, which I think I consider also very critical, is time management. Because you see, if life is a journey, leadership is a journey, achievement of vision is a journey, everything is a process. That means if you're not able to manage your time well, then you're going to miss out on critical elements or things you need to do within a particular time span that would have helped you to achieve your goal. So a leader must be able to manage and arrange their time well, even including time for leisure and rest, because they are equally important in your journey of leadership. It's not just about doing stuff. It's also about rest, just being able to have time to rejuvenate and recharge. This is very important for you as a leader. So time management. So I would narrow down on those three among many tens of others that we can talk about.
My next question would be, what sets up a leader to succeed? And the flip side of that question is what can lead to one's failure as a leader?
So quite a number of things. Number one, of course, is character. When you talk about leadership, you have to talk about character, because you know that when you have the skills of leadership and you have the opportunities, you have been exposed to opportunities, you can rise very quickly through the ladder and become very visible within no time. So if you don't have the character, your charisma can bring you down. And that we've seen happen in many areas. You've seen that happen in church circles, in political circles, economic circles. You've seen that happen a lot.
Yeah.
So it is important for a leader to develop a strong and solid character so that they are able to stand through the challenges of leadership. The other important thing in the making of a leader is the networks they have, the company, the association they have. You see, your association will determine your elevation. You know, they say if you look at your top 10 friends and look at their strengths and their weaknesses, you also have the same traits. And that's why you're able to fit in on Bled, because you're sharing the same traits, you are sharing some of the same strengths, weaknesses, and all that. So your network determines your worth, and it will determine how you rise. It will determine who you connect to and what opportunities you are going to be exposed to. So one has to really think through about their networks for them to be able to succeed. Of that thing, of course, is building skills and competencies. These are things that you can learn. You may not be a good communicator, for instance, but that's something you can train yourself to do. There are many people who are offering master classes in speaking and all that. You can practice, you can teach yourself and be able to develop particular skills. You may not be very talkative or anything, but you can be able to develop persuasion skill. You can learn. These are things you can learn. And that means you have to exert yourself to the art of learning so that you are able to grow as a leader and all that. On the flip side, about things that would make leaders to fall or to fail in leadership, I think it will come back again, number one, to character failure. When you have a failure in character, it doesn't matter what else you achieve. You have failed as a leader. And that's why, for me, that is the most pivotal thing that you need. You know, look at, for instance, look at our political scene. People who, they don't have a philosophy, for instance. So that's why somebody will jump parties, 4 or 5 parties within 10 years, because the guy has there's no morality. Basically, he has no character. He's just there. He's just there because the wave of what is happening has pushed them to that level. And because of that, they cannot be, they don't have anything that they stand for. They don't have a philosophy because they have not been able to develop a character and define their own values of what they want to do. So character failure is actually the greatest. I think we are seeing scandals everywhere, in church, in politics, we are seeing the society all over because of character failure among many leaders that we have. The other thing that is very critical for leaders and to think about and makes many people fall is greed. You know, there are 2 forces that push people many times: greed or fear. Yeah, many people are pushed to succeed by greed, that they are so afraid of lack. They are so afraid of lack, and that fear pushes them to achieve, because they never want to be in a position whereby they feel like they don't have. And then there are those who are greedy, that they want more and more and more, and they will never be satisfied because they want everything for themselves. Whatever they get, they still want a little more. So greed and fear are also 2 things that a leader must be able to look at and see. Well, am I driven by greed and fear, or am I driven by purpose? Am I driven by vision in terms of what I'm doing, or actually is greed for more, or fear of less? You know? So we have to think about that so that we're able to move forward in our leadership journey. And then, of course, also about issues of leadership failure is when people deviate from what is you would consider the original purpose or the vision or the reason for why they have stepped up into a particular area of leadership. Then, because once you deviate from that, then you begin to lose relevance. in terms of your influence and in terms of your ability to touch people. So one has to think about those among many other things, so that they're able to keep their leadership safe and secure.
Wow, awesome, awesome, awesome. I love the fact that you've mentioned the idea that people need to grow in leadership, and that learning is a part and parcel. You know, in the past, and it's possible there are some people who believe that leaders are born. So because I was born a leader, I don't need to put in any effort or do any of those things. Leadership will just happen. So I think it's maybe you can just make a short comment on that before we look at the next thing. Why is it important that somebody grows as a leader, and learning is one of the things that they need to do? What else does somebody do in order to grow?
So I think it's important for us to agree here that leaders are not born, they are made. Everybody is born a baby. So whether you're born in, whether you're born in State House or wherever, whether you're in Uhuru Kenyatta, the best example I can give you is actually Uhuru Kenyatta. The man was born in State House and all that. And once Moi's retirement, Moi decides to bring the young man on board. And when he brings him on board, everybody is up in arms, and he flanks very seriously the first time, because he had not invented himself to be able to stand on his own and to be able to define himself as a man who is worthy of respect. If you compare the Uhuru of that time and the Uhuru of today, those are two completely different persons. When you look at how he speaks, how he does his things and all that, his ability to interact with people and talk to the masses, those are two completely different personnel. You could see in the first time was being basically propped up and pushed to something he even maybe didn't know what is all about. But right now he is a man, you can see he's standing on his own and speaking on his own, because he has invented himself over time. So that is important, that one must define who they really want to be, and in which area do they really have a niche? Do they have an area they can be able to, because you cannot be a leader in all sectors and in all areas. No, you can't. You must narrow down on one or two areas where really you are able to make a maximum impact. I feel, there's what we call primary and others are secondary things, so there's what is primary and the key for you, and that is the area where you need to put effort and see how you grow yourself. That means you take time to learn, to ask yourself, what do I need to know? What are the skills do I need to have? What are the networks do I need? What is the kind of character which is required for this level of influence and for this kind of a service to the public, or to in the church, or in and all that, so that now you are able to define your own journey of growth. You are able to measure your own progress based on your goals and the standards that you set. One big problem with many people is that they try to leverage and measure their own growth on other people. So when they see maybe I'm doing better than so and so, or maybe your colleagues or your classmates or brothers and sisters or something like that, then you're like, yeah, I think I'm doing fine. No, that's a fallacy. You can only be your own best measuring yard. Become your own yard, become your own yardstick, that you can actually be able to say, this is my journey, and this is what I've said that this is what I want really to be able to do. And therefore, when I look at myself in January, this is where I was. Now we are in August. I think this is what I'm being able to learn in this particular area. So that way you are able to improve yourself, because leadership must be a journey of continuous self-improvement. Yeah.
Wow. Awesome. So we're almost coming to a close of the interview. What are some of the benefits of great leadership, and what are some of the consequences of poor leadership? You can give a few examples to illustrate each.
Yeah. So good leadership, I think we all know about that. We had the famous ones from Arap Moi, that is siasa mbaya, maisha mbaya, uongozi mbaya ni maisha mbaya. Yeah, that when you have a good leadership, then there is good life. And actually the Bible is very explicit. It talks about leadership, and it talks about and says that happy or blessed it talks about the nation in the book of Ecclesiastes and says about the nation whose kings or whose leaders do not rise up in the morning to look for strong drink, but yeah, yeah. But their nobles are people who are of noble character. They take, when you wake up in the morning, the first thing they're thinking about is what is it that really needs to be done for the benefit of the people who I'm leading and all that. So leadership, when leadership is good, the Bible also says that when the leadership is good, the people rejoice. But when it is evil and it is wicked, the people won't groan. And I think we have seen that in practice, even in the country.
Yeah.
We have seen that also even in church settings, it happens all over. So number one is that at a personal level, when you define yourself as a leader and you grow, you will find satisfaction in your own journey of purpose, because that is very important. Many people live lives of quiet desperation. They're actually there, but very desperate. They may look from outside like they're doing well. They may even have a high-flying career and making money and all that. But actually, deep inside, they are actually in a state of brokenness, in a state of desperation, because they have not defined their own journey of growth and progression in a way that actually impacts and touches people. Because you see, what you realize about life is the meaning of life is found through service. That is what gives us significance in life. That is what gives us moments that we'll actually remember and we'll recall many years later as we are settling into our sunset and all that. So personal satisfaction is a very important thing for you to be happy and for you to be able to have a peaceful life in this one important thing at a personal level. Of course, at a personal level there is growth. When you embark on your journey and you have defined your milestones and what you want to do, you're going to experience growth definitely. Are you going to be able to measure up your own growth and you can be able to say, yeah, the woman or the man I was 2 or 3 years ago, this is the man I am now. These are the milestones I have made. These are the steps I've made. So that helps you to grow, and it helps you to refine yourself to become a better version of yourself every day. At the broader level, when we think about the society where we are, whether it is workplace, whether it is a church, whether it's business, whichever area we are in and we are involved in and growing as a leader, it means that we begin to create a positive influence. That means we become an example. We become somebody that actually people can look up to in various ways to be able to emulate and to be able to desire to be like maybe what you are in one way or another. And that's one big challenge, especially for us who are believers. That's a big challenge that actually would step up and be light. The Bible says we be light. It says we be salt. That means that we have to step up because the challenge is there. There's rottenness all over and there's darkness all over. So we have to step up through our own leadership growth journey so that people are able to see the difference. Because remember, is that you can teach people, you can talk to people about many things that you know and all that, but until people see these things in practice, that journey, the lesson may never sink for some of these things. Yeah, there are things you cannot learn in any other way, but until you are there on when the rubber meets the road, that's when you really can say you have been tested. So it helps you to set that example that becomes a challenge to people and to bring positive influence so that people can begin to desire also to grow and to step up. Because you see, when you look at your own journey and you're able to share your own experience to be able to show people that actually you may be disadvantaged, you may be challenged in one way or another, because leadership journey has really many challenges. And when you're able to show people your journey, then that becomes a motivation. It becomes an inspiration to people. Never trust a person who rises from nowhere, somebody who cannot trace their journey, somebody who cannot show you this is how I have grown from, if it is ministry, this is where I started, I grew like this until I became here. Or if it is business, they cannot tell you their journey of growth. And if the person just appears from nowhere, the person is just big
overnight
and huge.
Success.
Take it to the bank. That fellow is a con person. they're gonna call you seriously in any interaction you're gonna have with them. But when you can trace the journey of somebody, you see that journey is loaded with lessons. It is loaded with experiences, and it is loaded with the relationships that actually you can be able to trace and you can be able to work through. Even now in your own journey, you can be able to replicate, you can be able to copy. Because you know, there are people I always see, especially when you see online and all that, and people posting stories and all that, you see people posting fancy stories about their lives and all that. And you know, like we said that when you are on Instagram and Facebook, no, we don't post our troubles, we post our successes.
Yes.
So to trace a journey, because it is your journey that provides lessons to other people that actually you are influencing, that you are leading. They can be able to learn through that. And there is no powerful instruction which is better than that of a living example. So that is very important, so that we can actually be able to bring up people. We can be able to bring the benefit to the people that are around us, and they can learn from our own growth and our own progress. Yeah, thank you.
Correct. This is my last question, and then we'll allow interaction from the audience for maybe 10 minutes before we wrap up. So
Sure.
take us through the levels of leadership we need to be familiar with, and where each apply.
All right. So, well, people have different ways of defining the various levels of leadership. So, but I will take the approach by John Maxwell that tries to define leadership into 5 levels. And so he gives about 5 levels of leadership that maybe we can think about. So the first level he talks about is the positional level. That is where basically you have found yourself because you've been appointed the school prefect.
Yes.
You didn't have to work for it. You didn't have to toil your way up or something like that. Maybe you are just a disciplined boy or something like that, or the best in sports. And so he made you the captain or something like that, because you are the goal scorer, you are the Messi of the team or something like that. So they give you a position as a result of either the skills or the giftings or that you have shown. But when you get so this positional level of leadership means you have to think about how you're going to grow it, because at this point you may not have a lot of influence with the people that are around you, and because you may not have touched some of those people in any way based on where you have come from. And that means you have to begin developing your own buy-in, especially when you are appointed into a position of leadership. Remember, when you are appointed into leadership, there are some people who are going to be for you. There are some people who are going to be for other people. So that means you have to begin working your way now into the next level, which is permission, the permissional level. So in the permissional level, what happens is that besides the position that you hold, now you have begun to develop some relationship with the people that are there. You are beginning to identify who to work with. There are those already who are for you. Those who are for you, that's not a problem. Those ones you hit the ground running. But there are those laggards and those who are the backbenchers and all that, who are, watching with you with Thomas eyes and questioning whether you really are able, the other day I was talking to a friend of mine. He's a pastor. And when we brought him into leadership as a pastor, there was one muzee who was there in the church. And when he came and the wazees were talking about the new pastor, and somebody asked, how is the new pastor? And the muzee there says, that young man needs to slow down, and he needs to slow down and see how things are done. But you see, unfortunately, at some point, the muzee could not even fit in that setting. But the work has grown massively from the leadership of that young man. So you see, there are people who are not going to be for you, and you have to begin developing relationship with them so that now you get the permission. They permit you, they allow you, they begin to get them buy-in that actually this person can be able to lead me into the next level. But once you get permission, then now you can go into the next level, which is basically production. In the level of production, what you are saying that now you have begun to work together, you have begun to gel, and you have become a team. You are able to work together to produce results. Yeah, there is buy-in from, of course, many times you may never get 100% buy-in, but at least you have like 95% buy-in or something in terms of what you are doing. Yeah, so the majority is on your end. So you are able now to push the team forward towards a particular agenda, and because the people now have seen your leadership, they have seen your skills, and they have permitted you, and they have bought into the vision in terms of what you want to do. And from there, that means people are ready to work. You can be able now to work together to deliver results depending on the objective or the vision that you have. In the next level of leadership is basically where we are talking about now reproduction or replication of leadership. You have now not only producing results, but you are empowering the people who are under you to also deliver results on their own, to become influencers at their own level or in their own capacity. That means you are growing people who are around you, you are equipping them, you are tasking them with responsibility. Remember, one of the important things about growing another leader is actually exposure, being able to expose a person to opportunities and give them an idea of how what it really means, what is really the practical thing about, for instance, when we say conflict resolution. You know, until you have been in a conflict, all those theories mean nothing until you find yourself there. So that exposure to real life situations and challenges and all that, and helps people to really know, do I really know this thing, or is actually something that I need more to know more, or to learn, or to grow in, so that I can become a leader in my own capacity. And the final level is what it talks about, the level of the pinnacle or a legacy level. Basically, you have now become an icon, you have become an authority in a particular area of either of service or ministry or something like that, of business. And you are people are looking up to you now because of who you are. They know your results, they know what you stand for. You are now somebody to be emulated. You are the Nelson Mandela or something like that of politics. Or we can talk about Mandela in politics. In family life, he was a failure, but we can talk about Nelson Mandela in politics, and say he's an icon that we can emulate and look at in many ways and all that. So so those are like 5 levels that basically tries to define different levels of leadership, whether you can be at a positional level, or a permission or production or reproduction of leaders, or you actually have now a legacy that you can actually even, look at Mother Teresa, for instance. Never met her, but I'm sure everybody on this call knows who Mother Teresa is, what she stands for, what she used to do, despite the fact she died many years ago, because of what she stood for, until she was able to elevate herself to a level of a pinnacle.
Very true. Very true. Very true. Wow. 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 That was deep and very detailed to be shared in such a short time. So I can almost guarantee that this is but a tip of the iceberg of what we can learn about leadership. But I believe that it is enough to get someone started, or to push someone a few steps forward in their journey as a leader. And this is why we do this. We want to give people a feel of what it is we are able to go very deep into in some of our programs, like the life and essential skill, life and employability skills, the essential life and employability skills, and many other such programs. We are able to go much deeper into this during those programs. And our invitation is for anyone who is thinking, or who is in that place where they are like, I need to skill up. Our invitation is for you to actually get in touch with us, and we see how we can be able to bring you on board, and you're able to take part in this. But for now, I want to allow, I saw a message. Yes, you can type in questions or you can also just unmute your mic and ask a question, or you have a comment. I'm going to give us about 10 minutes to do that, and then we will call it a day. So you can either unmute and ask a question, or you can type in